Does life actually get better? How do you come back / get better from being lonely and extremely depressed? How do you create meaningful relationships when you are so screwed up? You can't live a meaningful life in a day, but you can have a slightly better day at a time. Strive towards having a better day first. Start with one conversation, one relationship at a time. And give yourself time to grow and get results. Consistent effort is what it takes to be better. Was gonna come here to say take things one day at a time. The uncertainty of what to do even 1 week from now can stress you out and make you anxious. Everything one by one. One day, one step. But you have to take that step no matter what. Keep going. I'm late, so this will probably get buried. In 2008 I lost my job. All I could get right away was McDonald's, so I took it, but it wasn't enough to pay all my bills. My car was repossessed, I got kicked out of my apartment, and I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me all within the space of a month or so. It was the lowest period of my life. I struggled with depression, considered suicide. It just wasn't a good time. I was homeless, but I had good friends who gave me a place to stay, so I was never actually on the streets. It took a while, but today I have a good job. I apprenticed in the tool and die trade and I make good money for a guy who barely graduated high school and never went to college. I'm married and my home life is stable. It's not perfect, life never is, but I'm far better than I was. I hope everyone in this thread who is struggling is able to find a way to better days as well. I don't know if life gets better or you get better. I've struggled with depression for most of my life. The thing is that my mental toils grow stronger with every other struggle I have to deal with. Summers used to make me extremely happy. Well, content is maybe a better word, because I could only be focused on work and making money. College was horrible because it took almost 6 years and the only thing I envisioned my diploma to be was a giant question mark instead of a marker of success. I was tired, angry and overwhelmed for those 6 years. I thought about killing myself a couple times because of all the strain. But I thought that if I killed myself, I wouldn't have known if I'd have finished school. But school was so difficult to complete. Your whole life you hear that a degree brings happiness and success. It doesn't, but school is done with. Do I have a career to show for it? A nice new car and a house? No. I have debt, but at the same time I'm carefree. So to answer your question, depression might not go away, but you will mature and things will get easier. But it's never truly gone. Go to therapy / counseling. The other suggestions are great, but I don't think these people understand what it's like to go through depression. You don't merely snap out of it by doing the things they suggested. Find a good therapist, and if you cannot afford one, look for support groups of others who are also experiencing depression, and talk about your struggles with them. Mental health counseling, along with the things the others have mentioned, will go a long way. Relationships happen because you have a life to share, so don't go looking for it. Build a life for yourself first. Self-improvement, exercise, nutrition. Get a plant or pet and bond with it, so you have some form of responsibility and a reason to become more disciplined. Once you've sorted out the basics, find what would make you happy or proud of yourself, and actively chase down that dream. Sometimes it helps to remember that you could put yourself in an absolute hell if you left things deteriorate. So spend a bit of time contemplating how easily things could get way worse if you did nothing. Just don't ever forget, you have something to contribute to life. Even if others cannot or do not appreciate what you are doing. Every small step helps. Give it time. As a last piece of advice, do a year of yes. If someone asks you to do something, and you cannot immediately think of a proper argument to say no, say yes and go do it. You find yourself someone or something that makes you happy. I can be a partner or a simple pet. Maybe a leopard gecko or a cat. Everything that lives longer than 10 years might not be that bad. Find someone to talk to or hang out. He/she doesn't need to be a relationship, just someone who is open and can listen to you and that you trust. For me that would be my gaming buddies I met while playing. But if you are alone and very shy, I recommend maybe a pet. Leopard geckos are cheap and low maintenance. Of course there are a lot others, but a pet that you can take in your hand, pet and talk to works wonders and will build confidence. Important is that you aren't alone. For me at least, loneliness is the worst thing, because my depression starts really kicking through then. Maybe this helped. Maybe not. It's just what I did, and it helps a lot. I've been living with severe clinical depression. I could claim disability, if I needed to, for almost 30 years now. 2 more and I can celebrate my first clinical diagnosis. Therapy and medication. Sure, exercise and eating healthy help, but they don't help like people who were once sad and then went outside think they do. They can take you from a 2 to 2.5. They can't heal you. Therapy and medication is where you'll get your help. You need to learn how to think and also get the right meds to fix your brain chemistry. Medications are also not an exact science. Some may work in the short term, others may not seem to help at all until one day they do. Keep an open line of communication with your mental health provider as they may need to adjust dosage. Some days are better than others. I have good days and bad days and out of mixed day. It's a struggle, but like riding a bike, it takes time and you fall down. Finding friends in today's society can be really hard. That said, start in places where talking with others is encouraged. Creating meaningful relationships is a two-way street, but in general it's a lot of stumbling around getting to know each other and find your comfort zone. This is a bit of a question to answer, and I really wish there was a simple solution, but the reality is that everyone's mental issues are subtly different. Mental illness don't group as nicely as physical illness. My wife and her sister both suffer from generalized anxiety disorder, but one has a bit more OCD rolled in, and the other has a bit more depression. What works for one person's depression might not work for you depression. Main things you need to know and keep telling yourself. It is not your fault. It is not a weakness in your personality. You are not screwed up. You have a medical condition that negatively affects your brain. It is simply that we do not understand enough about how the brain works to be able to say exactly what is wrong. It will go, and it will come back, but you can change this pattern. You can make improvements. I'll tell you about myself, and you are free to draw your conclusions. I have major childhood trauma, verbal and emotionally abusive parents, mainly father. Things went south, even before I was born. Mum had anxiety when she was pregnant with me. Parents got divorced, money was sparse, health got shit. Got depressed, very anxious, and struggled like a pig. Then I started working. I saved money. And here's the most important thing you need to do. I got a good therapist and worked on myself like crazy. It was exhausting and overwhelming. I worked on myself, my relationships, my habits, my very personality. It is so important to get a good therapist. They may be expensive. This one was, but she was the best thing I've done for myself. And since then, the anxiety is down. My relationships are so much better. Better. But all the trauma and shit out of 25 years doesn't go away in 15 therapy sessions. But I'm much better equipped to deal with things now. We are still not rich. We still struggle. But we have finally arrested the decline. You will too. To quote a great fictional man, sometimes life is like this tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you keep moving, you will come to a better place. A month ago I didn't think anything was worth it anymore. I remembered this quote and kept moving forward. It took time, a long time, but I'm finally leaving the job I hate for a job that I'm actually excited about. Change won't happen overnight, but you have to keep showing up the next day to make progress. Don't be afraid of change, and you'll be fine. I've been seeing the same therapist since I was 19. I'm now 36. My case will be different from yours, but I figure I should share that different stages of life will make you think about different things and leave you wanting to reason out if you can handle the challenges life throws at you. I've never been extremely depressed, but I have had suicidal thoughts, or at the very least felt like my life wasn't worth it. It's taken this long for me to realize that, even if I have those feelings, there's nothing stopping me from rejecting them and forging a path for myself with other things. To be fair, I still don't know if life actually gets better. In some ways I think it will, or in my case it has, but in some ways, it may not. I just want to get past my days well enough to see the following day through and find happiness where I can. Also, it took some time to get me on the right meds for me to stop overthinking about everything. My first meds made me drowsy all the time, but then we just made adjustments. So, from once a week sessions 17 years ago, I basically visit my therapist now every 2 or 3 months for life coaching, or as needed, if there's some major stressor, and ask for advice to help me broaden my worldview. That said, if you ever feel the need to talk or want someone to rant to, I can always offer some kind words. Cheers. As someone who has been suffering with depression for 8 years now, no it doesn't. You just have to come to terms with that. You'll have lows and highs, but if you are genuinely chronically depressed, your only choice is living life as a zombie on medication, or dealing with it. This doesn't apply to everyone though, so hopefully your case is different. I would definitely recommend taking daily vitamin D and iron, as this can help combat feeling tired all the time, and getting in the gym a couple times a week can also distract you from feeling like shit. Also, try not to push away the people that care about you when you're depressed, because after a while they'll stop caring and you'll be on your own permanently. If you're feeling lonely, try reaching out to a friend or a colleague and just being straight with them. I'm really suffering over here and I could do with a friend. Results may vary. Good luck. Not always. In my 40+ years experience, it just gets steadily worse. I've spent most of my life completely friendless. You always hear people say to go to places where you'll meet like-minded people, but that assumes these places exist, which they don't for me where I am, and my social anxiety makes it a non-starter anyway. I've been through a number of psychologists over the last couple of decades that have all given up on me and been on a variety of antidepressants, none of which helped. Now I just exist day to day, week to week, wondering how much longer I can keep going. Create a reward system for yourself. Do tasks and then create rewards for yourself. But you have to start small. This is so important. When you're depressed, it's hard to remember that any upward trajectory has to start from the state you find yourself currently, meaning that the steps you take have to start from however low you find yourself. If you've been in bed for 4 days straight, you shouldn't expect to complete your 15-page essay or answer 100 emails right off the bat. Reward yourself for taking a shower. Reward yourself for brushing your teeth. Reward yourself for throwing a piece of trash from the other side of the room into the trash can. Start small, small, small. Creating appropriate rewards then becomes the task itself, and before you know it, you've begun to take steps towards wherever you might like to go. The thing I realized is everybody goes through depression at some point in their life. Sure, it has varying degrees, varying causes, and because things affect individuals differently, what is a cause of severe depression for you may be just as a source of sadness for somebody else. For me, I've been depressed most of my adult life. I'm 23 BTW. I know many here might be able to relate that I have always had company, never been short of it, but I felt I was always alone. This drove me to smoke and drink to drown out the deafening silence, kind of fill the void, but since both of these are somewhat socially accepted compared to drugs, people didn't bat an eye. They felt I was going through the normal early adulting phase. I've always kept things to myself because of social anxiety. I felt people would judge me as an attention whore, explaining the lack of viral in this profile. In time, I grew to be a cynic. I would judge people on the smallest of things until I realized the fundamental truth that everyone just wants to be happy. That everyone deserves to be happy, with a caveat that, as long as you don't take the happiness away from someone else. So, I started viewing things recently with a broader sense or filter of happiness, and things just changed like a snap. Sure, I've not dramatically become happiest guy on the planet, but I started enjoying the little things more. Small talk, sleeping late, smelling the flowers, experiencing the wind, and slowly I started to open up. The next thing I knew, I started enjoying these things again. Depression is layered, unlike what other people think being one-dimensional. Try to peel back each layer at a time. This is certainly the place to do it. It will take time and you can hopefully get out of whatever dark place you are in. Hope this helps.